Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Deeper Discipleship. My name is Blake. Here on the channel, I answer your questions about Christianity, the Bible, and how to live biblically in an ever-changing world. Our title today, can't we all just coexist? Here's our question we're going to talk about. The question is, I've heard that all religions and beliefs lead to the same end. And no matter your background, all of us will end up being in a heaven state after death. I've also seen stickers that they say coexist on them, but each letter is a symbol for a different religion. Is this claim true? That's an excellent question. Just starting out, I have also seen these stickers, these coexist stickers. In fact, I saw one yesterday on a bumper. I've seen it on t-shirts. I've seen it on hats. I have seen it as well. And I've actually uh there's someone who did a counteract kind of thing. It was said contradict instead of coexist. That's a little funny thing, but we'll get back to that in a second. But I've seen these stickers. I've seen the coexist stickers, and so let's unpack this question. Let's go through this together, being humble students, willing to learn and just reflect. So let's start with coexist. What does it mean? What is the heart behind it? And honestly, at first glance, it looks really good. The heart behind coexist is this understanding that we love one another by being understanding and accepting of different beliefs and backgrounds. Right? That we accept people of just difference of whatever whether it's belief or just nationality, whatever. It's this understanding of acceptance, and that's how we love one another. And honestly, that's not a bad thing at first glance. Oh, it's like, oh, that sounds pretty good. We should be accepting, so forth, and respecting. And so that's where the phrase coexist comes from, and just being accepting of people of different religions and beliefs. But unfortunately, and this is going to ruffle some feathers, but coexist is actually an ignorant statement. And I mean ignorant in the use of the actual word, just very unknowledgeable and unstudied uh, statement. Because if you go and take time to study all the different religions in the world, you're going to quickly find that one, they aren't all the same. Two, they can't coexist because three, they can't all be true. Saying that we can just coexist shows that you haven't done your research. And it's ignorant. And I'll give you an example here. Just let's take Islam for example. Let's say me as a Christian, I walk up to a Muslim and someone who follows Islam, and I was like, "Hey, what you believe about Allah and what I believe about Jesus, they're really all the same, but they're not all that different, and we can just be buddy buddy. Our religions aren't different, so forth." And I'm just like, don't you agree? Can't we just coexist? Live in love and harmony. And honestly, I'm probably gonna get punched in the face because that's offensive to a Muslim, and it would be offensive to anybody who whatever they believe. And I say, nah, we're all the same. Don't worry about it. Like that's offensive. I've clearly would not have done my research to understand that no, Islam is different than Christianity, as is Judaism to Christianity and Buddhism and Hinduism. Like they are different, and to say that they're just all the same and can coexist, you just haven't done your research to know that that's just not true and that can't work. Um, so yeah, the reason coexisting doesn't work is because each religion teaches something different. Each different religion, they teach different things on how to live life and how to get to the afterlife and how you ought to be in this life and the next. Because there are different teachings amongst the different religions, they are automatically at ends with one another. All right. If I say that Jesus is the only way to heaven, and a Buddha says that you must detach from this world in order to get to nirvana, that is completely two different paths and or teachings, in which then they are in contradiction with one another. You can't you can't both be true that Jesus is the only way to heaven and then also the Buddhist belief of detaching from this world to get to nirvana. They both can't be true. They're in contradiction. They're at odds. And so this leads us to a part of the conversation about objective truth and to the law of contradiction. And this is a logical law, but it could be also in mathematical as well. And I'll give you an example. Here's what the law of contradiction is. 2 plus 2 equals 4, and 2 plus 2 equals 5 can both be true. Oh, obviously, no, they both can't be true because 2 plus 2 either equals 4 or 2 plus 2 either equals 5. But they both can't be true. It's a contradiction. So that's an example of the law of contradiction. And that's what we're having happen here when it comes to religions, because religions say different things on how to live life and how to get to the afterlife. And so can they all be true? No. And that's what I kind of shared with the Buddhist and Jesus example. So that leads us to this question. How do we figure out what is true and what isn't? Well, honestly, we ought to be students, right? We ought to be researchers. We ought to be learners. Uh, we ought not to just find someone we like on the internet and just follow what they believe. We ought to do the work ourselves. We ought to read the books. We ought to watch the documentaries. Like, be a learner, be a student. And so, my encouragement is, how do we find what is the truth? All right, who is telling the truth? Is it Islam? Is it Christianity? Is it Buddhist? Whatever. Well, my encouragement is, do research. Follow where the evidence leads. All right, and that's for everybody. Follow where evidence leads you. And I'm talking about good evidence here, not like obscure, like, you kind of have to stretch it to make it. No. Follow good evidence. Look for historic evidence. Look for archaeological evidence, book or manuscript evidence, moral evidence, and so forth. Because if you follow the evidence as a whole, they should overlap, right? If historic evidence says one thing and the book manuscript evidence says another thing, well, they're at odds. That doesn't line up in a good way. You want to overlap these things. Look at the evidence, follow the evidence. And I think you'll find this interesting. But when I became a Christian, I actually learned way more about other religions and compare the different beliefs and evidences to find out what was true. It's so interesting. I became a Christian and I became interested in all the other religions. Kind of an interesting story there. But what I did, what I encourage you to do, is look at the evidence. After I looked at a lot of evidence and did my research, for me, there was beyond a reasonable doubt that Jesus, or Christianity in this case, is the one that holds the whole truth, is the one that is the truth, the objective truth. And that was kind of my research. And I'll share two pieces of evidence for you that we could talk about now, because there's so much evidence for Christianity. It's crazy. But I don't have time to go into that, but I'll just share two quick ones. Here's one. All other religions have roped Jesus in as part of their beliefs somewhere. So basically, the religions that were prior to Jesus, they've kind of incorporated him into their belief, and religions that came after Jesus, they've included him in as way in their in their beliefs. Kind of like, oh, Jesus is a way, he's part of it, so all these other religions have roped Jesus into their beliefs somewhere, but Jesus himself says he's the only way to heaven. And I actually have that verse on the screen. There's plenty of other verses, but John 14, verse 6 says, Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me, right? And coming to the Father, in heaven and so forth. So I think one evidence to consider, other religions have roped Jesus into the beliefs somewhere, right? Jesus says he's the only one. I find that interesting. Second piece of evidence to talk about, we'll talk about the manuscript book evidence I shared earlier. But the amount of reliable manuscripts we have of the New Testament is undebatable among scholars. In fact, what scholars debate when it comes to Christianity and the New Testament is whether if God could really exist, That's for another video. I don't have time to talk about that. But for the scholarly world, there's no debate over the reliability of the Bible. They all agree that there's way more evidence to support that it is trustworthy and at least consistent, right? And just giving you some numbers here to what I'm talking about. But if you look at Roman Emperor Caesar, right? You know, the Caesar salad guy. Imagine being an emperor and you get a salad named after you. Anywho, Roman Emperor Caesar, you know, when it comes to historic books and manuscripts on his life, there's about 10, all right? Which is actually good when it comes to ancient history. But the New Testament, which is also ancient history, do you want to guess how many we have? We have over 5,600 manuscripts of the New Testament. That's incomparable to Roman Caesar. We all know who Roman Caesar is. But the manuscript evidence for the Bible is so reliable, the scholars don't debate that. They just debate whether God really exists. But that could be for another video. So that's two pieces of evidence for you about the objective truth to when it comes to religion. And I'd like to point out too something very interesting that I've been personally reflecting on in my life. Don't worry, we'll come back to the question. Jesus is completely different than all other religions. As you study, you'll notice that all other religions, other than Christianity, teach a works-based faith. And what that means is if you want to experience the good afterlife, or I don't know, achieve what the religion is saying to achieve, you have to do good things. You have to be a good person. You have to be a moral person. You got to keep the rules, follow this, so on and so forth. But Christianity is totally unique, for it teaches that we're all messed up already. We're already not great moral people, but that Jesus saves us and we can have eternal life by his death. We just accept it. We repent of our sin and we turn to him and we ask for forgiveness. Like, Jesus is completely unique than other religions. Christianity teaches that we're saved by grace and not by works. All other religions are based on works for afterlife, but not Christianity. And that is just absolutely mind-boggling that it's only Jesus and not the others. And so Jesus is truly unique amongst the others. So he's either right or he's wrong. And I think the evidence is very clear. But coming to our question, I hope this has all been very insightful. I hope you've learned something. I hope this is some conversation for you. But I want to end with this. Coexisting, that sticker that we see, that phrase, the ideology behind it, is not fair statement. It's a lack of knowledge of what's actually going on there. Because a better sticker that I've seen, and I've mentioned it, is the sticker contradict. Because that's the truth of the matter. All religions are not the same. They all teach different things, which leads to different conclusions on how to live life and how to get to the afterlife. And here's why this all matters. Would you say that if I lied to you, that I love you? Of course not. If you love someone, you don't lie to them. So, coming from my background and my perspective, and as what I've learned and done research on all this stuff, I have found that Jesus is the one that has the most solid, compelling evidence. And so, for me, I'm not going to lie to you because I love you. I want to tell you the truth. And if Jesus is really the only way to heaven, then if I love you, I'm going to share him with you because that's what love does. Love tells the truth. Coexisting doesn't work because all religions can't be true. It's just the law of contradiction already rules it out. And so let's end with this thought. If Jesus isn't the truth, isn't the way, isn't the life, he's just some guy, then it's of little significance to our lives, right? If you follow Jesus and it's just not true, well, then you live a life of serving other people and being a somewhat morally good person, right? It's of little significance, though. It doesn't matter if he's not true or if he's not real. But if Jesus is the truth, and if he is the life, and he is the way, then it's of most significance of our lives. Actually, it's an eternal difference to our lives. So I hope that answered your question. Like I said, that probably ruffled some feathers, but honestly, I hope that it stirred you to think logically and be a student, not only of the word, but just a student in life. We are meant to learn. We're meant to study and know things for ourselves, not just take a word from someone else. So I know I've shared some things with you from me. I hope they've helped you, but do the research yourself. And well, you have a good day. Thanks for tuning in.